Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, things were going well. We were making good progress. We were proving our points. But then, no, alas, the jury unanimously voted guilty for a second time, and now we had to invoke the antiquated law I can never remember the name of for a second time. But things are looking up just a bit. I think I have a complete through line. I think I have solved this case. All the signs are pointing to it being true. I think that Joan Garadeb, in a fit of rage, threw a knife at her husband. It missed him and sailed right out the window and into the back of the victim. And the crux of this begins with whether or not the window was open, and I think we can prove that it was open. Number 3 here says, even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? I say it can. Because it was actually open. Number 6 says, winter house fires are dire. You have to open windows to clear the smoke. That's when the chill gets you see. And indeed, there was a fire in the Garadeb household. So, let's try our luck.
Objection!
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. Huh? What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household. And Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my.
Oh. Oh, my hat? Well, Joan has something to say. Whoa. Look at her chug. Hold on here.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garadeb. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course. I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadeb's formal statement. Indeed.
Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Well. So we may have successfully pit two jurors together, but their statements aren't dark green yet. They have not voted not guilty as of yet, so we still need to convince people. I see. So juror number 3 is absolutely starting to consider things. The window could have been open when the woman was throwing books. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And she says, now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. We might be able to pit them against each other, maybe. Or we could say, if we combine this, there's a possibility the one was throwing books. Then we can say, juror number 1, what about the 3 books? No, there'd be more if they were actually throwing things out, but no, I think we need to get to that later. For now, let's just press Joan.
Hold it!
The 4th book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrett told us he had been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know.
I really don't.
I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
Oh, what does this man have to say?
Excuse me.
I'm very glad I pressed her. What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I'd blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. Yeah, granny.
Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garrett, or the maid, I'll have you know.
Wow. Or the maid. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. Hooray! Domestic violence. So funny. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. Put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I have lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me it did, about an inch deep. Ah, a thrown knife, you say? Oh my god. Oh, okay, at this point, you would have to move heaven and earth to convince me that my theory's wrong. Joan was the one who stabbed the victim. She threw the knife out the window. Oh my god. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. Thames. Thames? Thames. Thames? Thames pay for college? I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. I mean, she does have a penchant for grappling and throwing. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. Yeah, you just skip to throwing the people. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. Ah, they didn't go for the joke. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. Right, all the puzzle pieces are assembled. How do I put them together? Right, so number 2, alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed. Combined with a woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. Right. No, if we're going to come out and say Joan Garadeb threw the knife out the window, no, it's too much right now. We need to grease the wheels a bit. Get people primed to think about it. We still need to settle the matter of the windows conclusively. But for now, we'll press this man.
Hold it!
Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you?
That's right. She was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? Started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. I want to meet this woman.
Your wife must be even beefier than you.
And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really.
I want to meet her. I'm so happy for you.
If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country was thought up by some clever lads who'd been tossed in the Thames a few too many times for their wives.
That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement just sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Ah. That is literally what number 2 is looking for. Well, shit. See, did you see what I did there? All right. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Pitted against a woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection.
Good grief! You mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once.
Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back.
What are you talking about?
We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garadeb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garadeb household to the street below.
What's that now?
After all, Mrs. Garadeb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened.
Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of that house, but what? What was it?
I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. All right, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadeb household to the scene of the crime was the jackknife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb. What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this, but I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before?
Good Lord, counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man.
My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene.
You can't seriously believe that.
The book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand?
Even my missus hasn't got an aim like that.
Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my.
Oh.
Mrs. Garadeb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not?
Oh.
My lord? I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman. I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Well, there's still 2 holdouts. Mrs. Garrett is indisposed, and the old man, number 6, but we did it. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? I am very interested in seeing what he has to say. This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Yeah, that about tracks. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? Uh-oh. It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrett household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garrett's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see. 15 yards? That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I'd imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having pretentious significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Well, you know what? I think I already have... Oh, excuse me. I think I already have an explanation for both of these. The Garredebs live on the 2nd floor. That's British 2nd floor. I think, at least. That's American 3rd floor, mind. So, the sheer height would allow for a thrown object to travel much farther than if you were on level ground with the target. Not to imply that there was a target, it was a random throw. And as for Olive Green... What's her name? Olive? I remember it was Green something. Miss Green, the victim. I think the book might have just flown past her and she picked it up in curiosity. And she would be facing the alleys, her back to the window, and bam, there was the knife. I still think it's plausible. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Oh, we got his opinion on Sherlock Holmes stories. Neat. Ugh! There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Miss Susato. Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, he hit a nerve. Duck and cover. How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. You know, you gotta give Susato credit. She's actually making a lot of nice plays. Like, I think of the other weird little girls. Maya Fey, Kay Faraday, at least one other. Emma Sky at one point. I don't recall them ever actually just making statements that just change the course. Usually they're rooting for Phoenix or Miles. Sidekicks only. But no, Susato, she does speak up. She does make big plays. I appreciate that. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Oh, right, that's a bit, Ooh. Ordar? Ordar, Ordar! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
Well, that's never gonna get old. And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks? There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth to it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must... Sorry, my throat. A burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly. All right, these two exist. What say you, witnesses? Yes, Constable Rolly Beat reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing off until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. A what? Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Very well. I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. This should be good. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. Believe me, a London bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrideb house are top-hinged casements. Oh. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's room. All right, I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing when I heard that. Oh, jeez. I mean, I could see a well-aimed knife slipping through that crack, but a whole book... actually... If you threw the book sideways, horizontally, like a frisbee, I could see it. But that is absolutely not the way you throw a book-shaped object when you're trying to pummel a spouse. Oh, okay. Trying to think. Yeah, no, as is, I don't see a way out of this. Uh-oh. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see? I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. Okay. New theory. It was thrown out of the defendant's room? Sosuke's room, with the very weird bricked over window that they brought attention to multiple times? I mean, Sosuke was out of the house. That's the entire point. He's the defendant for a reason. He was not in his house. He doesn't have an alibi like that. I say house, I mean his room. Maybe? How recently was that window bricked over? How recently? You see the problem then. Good. Your education in Windows is complete. But what if you get a blue screen? There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be! Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How was this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation. This case had nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. I do. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly, saw. Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, what can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett? I see, sir. Should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so, could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand that the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal.
Ah,
But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears.
thank you. I'll try. Aha! Rules of conduct, you say? Now, this poor man mentioned he hasn't been sleeping because he's been hounded by a villain. Why do you want to bet it's his wife? I mean, she did say she really liked it when he's in his uniform, and that she doesn't recognize him when he's out of it. And oh god, what if she's sabotaging the poor man? Anyway, let's take a close look. Principles of Policing. Item number 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. Item number 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Metropolitan Police Regulations. Item number 1. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Item number 2. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Yeah. Wasn't there something about how they were actually at the very edge of the beat and it didn't actually apply to them? I think I remember that. Huh. Like, what if... Okay, stupid theory. What if Rolly or the wife, Pat, doctored the scene? Like, what if they ran over, got the book from under the window, ran back across the street, doctored the scene, posed the body? But, I mean, they'd have to be absolute sociopaths to stick the knife in her, so... Maybe not, no, that's stupid. Well, as of right now, I failed to see what I can do with this, but I'll keep it in mind. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb house are top-hinged casements, sir.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see. So they're restricted as to how much they open.
And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where the objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the rather wide road. Wouldn't it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable.
And what would that be, sir?
How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house is furnished with? That's a good question.
Well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Oh. What do you have to say?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Huh? Sorry?
You look, well, delighted.
Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see.
Uh-huh. Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that's Street Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat. Yeah, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, so... Huh. I really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well?
Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, they did doctor the crime scene, didn't they? Oh my god, the knife and book did hit the window pane that was out. It did fall directly down to the pavement, the concrete below. And oh my god, Rolly and Pat Beat did mess with it. Oh my god. Oh, what is going on? I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. I wonder what the etymology of Bobbies is. Like, is it slang? What's the root word? Like, I'm picturing, like, bobbing, as in what someone would do when they're tossed into the River Thames. But, maybe their heads go bobbing along as they walk? Their helmets? I don't know.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling?
Is that the first religion reference in the franchise? Weird. Like, they say Lord a lot in this game, but no, that's a capital L Lord right there. Like, for reals, he's capital. That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
Aha!
And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can it guide you to answer the question? In a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us. Would have lit up like a shooting star.
And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it.
Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least.
The wishes don't come true if you say it aloud.
Of course, but with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir.
Huh. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Oh, please.
So, I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But, like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
You keep saying that, don't you?
15 minutes is a long time to tamper as you please.
But what would he actually gain from doing that?
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Oh, whoops.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out.
What do you mean?
I requested the cross-examination of Mrs. Garadeb without consulting you. Even if the judge did deny me.
Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Garadeb if we're ever going to get to the truth of this matter.
Do you really think so?
Well, think about it. No matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Garadeb's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it?
You're right.
And then there was Mrs. Garadeb's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something, I'm sure of it.
You're right again.
We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear.
Yes.
Alright, last thing I need to cross-examine here. Didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, saw nothing strange to report on that front, saw.
Hold it!
Nothing to report?
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I could swear onto that on the yard's honor, sir.
Can you now? Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether irregular to me.
This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Garadeb household.
So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy saw? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, so that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Oh. Huh. Maybe it's good that I accidentally skipped dialogue instead of pressing. Weird. Can I ask you something, please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really... I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? She added two things. I know what I saw, my eyes never let me down, my sense of direction is a little off sometimes though, and... Oh. No, just the one thing, she just interjected is all. Unless... Right. I'm pretty sure she has just handed us our out a second time. This is the second time she has self-sabotaged and spoken when she shouldn't have and given us an avenue to advance and keep fighting. And if she's a saboteur in the courts, gods, maybe I really was right on the money when I guessed like maybe she's the villain who is sabotaging her husband and denying him sleep. I think I've just been eerily on the money so much recently. It's kind of weird, but also kind of a nice feeling, I guess? I mean, yeah, thus far, in this entire Let's Play so far, across 4 cases now, I've only had to look up what to do once. And that was completely justifiable that one time, because it was... the solution there was to do something I would never think to do and kind of broke serious conventions, almost. Maybe it did. The series did that one bit at one point, but I forget, dude. I always forget the finer details and the little things. Still though, one of these two is a saboteur. I don't smell collaboration. One of these two lovebirds is going behind the other's back. Why? Maybe to make Rolly seem better, to help him and Scotland Yard's perception of him. I just... Things are weird, and I still don't 100% know what to make of most of it. Boy, it's like I said, I have all the puzzle pieces, I just don't know how to fit them together. It's weird. Anyway, I guess next time we'll press this and maybe use that journal, that guidebook that Rolly just handed me to advance here and find a contradiction. I don't know. We'll see how things go. So I know last time I said that this video could be the end. Yeah, as usual, look how that turned out. I get it. It just... As always. Except for that one time this series, but never mind that. I don't think it's gonna end next time. I think we might actually be steering towards wanting to set up a cross-examination with Mrs. Garadeb. I think that cross-examination would be the last thing we do in this trial. And indeed, probably the last thing we do in this case. We may have gone from investigation to trial, but in breaking series tradition even more, looks like that's all it's gonna be. Just one loop. One investigation, one court phase. I'm pretty sure the way things are going, all the things we've uncovered, just all the evidence and the testimony and everything, the way it's feeling, I feel like we're this close to ending things, and no more investigation necessary after that. Which is so weird. I mean, I do appreciate that this game doesn't feel beholden, enslaved to what came before. It's willing to do its own thing, and write its own stories. Even if a lot of beats do feel traditional and familiar, even if a lot of characters feel like slightly changed reskins of some others. You know what I mean. Anyway, I'm getting pretty sleepy myself, so I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.